Hello, hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to another episode of Teach Jenn Tech. And I'm excited because we are joined today with two humans that I am fortunate enough to call friends and who are insanely smart and help me level up all the time because they call me out on making me do things better. So, dude, Roy, you got one of the cups? I need to order one of the
Yes,
cups.
I've got a Jacob mug.
I want to put make
OSRG.
a Jacob, like an OSRG Teach Jenn Tech mug. And what up, learner?
Yeah,
Um,
I plan on rebranding, so like the logos will eventually change, but like you'll have like an OG collectible.
okay, that'll be amazing. I'm excited for that. And yeah, so I would say question number one, who are you guys? Who are you?
Roy.
It's a deep question.
My name is Roy. At some point, people are going to figure out I'm an imposter, and I'll never be in tech again. On a more serious note, I work with the developer success team at Clerk right now. And yeah, as Jen mentioned, Jacob, her, and I know each other from a bunch of different things, whether it's tech or gaming, and just happy to be on the stream for my second time.
Yeah. Wait, I think this might be your third time.
Yeah.
Were you there when we did the weird co-working session with like 12 people on the stream?
Oh yeah, if you want to count that, yes.
I counted.
Yeah,
I don't
then
think
third,
I ever
okay.
kept the episode, but
That was because it was my
counted.
stream.
Oh yeah, that's true. But it was in my StreamYard.
Yep.
Okay. Yay.
So this is the the 2.5 time I've been on Jen's stream.
We'll go with that. And Jacob, who are you?
Yeah. Names right there. So I worked at Cloudflare for the last 3 years. If you use Cloudflare stuff as a developer, you've probably used something that I touched, like Wrangler, the worker CLI. I currently work at Clerk as well, with the magnificent Roy here. I am on the DevRel team as a senior developer experience engineer. So very, very fancy title.
I dig it. And to fill in some pieces here, Jacob was on my stream in the very beginning, like probably the first month or two. And y'all, I've been joining or like learning TypeScript and JavaScript at the same time. It wasn't like a, hey, I'm going to work with React or anything. It was a, yo, I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm learning because I'm just going to start learning. And then Jacob came on the stream to talk about TypeScript, which I don't even know what we ended up talking about. Headless something,
Workers.
I think.
Serverless.
Workers.
Edge.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's just say for anybody that watches that, it'll be painful for you and everyone involved because it just was not clicking like at all. And but it was very amusing. And then Roy was on the stream to talk about a lot of the behind the scenes items that I was struggling with to understand coming from a GoDaddy point of view, because I was learning about like trying to understand all these different website structures and building apps when my point of reference was WordPress and website builders like Squarespace or GoDaddy or Weebly and those type of things. So both of those, very spaced out, actually. Jacob was here like a year ago and Roy was here in April.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 or 7 months ago. Yeah, that's if you're just kind of like clueless about the whole, like, what is SSR, what is client rendered, what is server rendered, what is all of that kind of stuff. That stream was kind of like a good intro stream. I think helped. I know a lot of people who are kind of getting into that stuff struggle with all of these terms and concepts. Though we probably have to go back and talk about server components and server actions now, because they're here to play.
I almost put Rith Rowe, like your name was about to be Rowe, while I was putting this in the chat. So yes, y'all, definitely something that I think would be very helpful. I am curious because this is it'll be fun. How did we meet, y'all? Do you remember?
I think you met Jacob first, didn't you? I'm trying to remember now.
Yep. Jacob hosts a Code in Life. I'm still going to call it a Twitter space, 3 days a week, the evening time in the US. And I think Anthony Campolo, or as I like to say, his last name is AJC Web Dev, which is his Twitter handle, helped me get in, start Teach Jenn Tech. And then he was friends with someone named Bro Nifty. And Bro Nifty was in Jacob's Twitter space. And I kept showing up. And this is a very technical Twitter space. And I kept going on. I don't know why Jacob let me on stage, but I kept going on stage and asking lots and lots and lots of questions. And then they talked about D&D. And I was like, that's a thing. I've heard it's cool. I've always wanted to learn how to play D&D. And they were starting a new campaign. And Jacob said yes. And Roy was part of that campaign. And I annoyed the shit out of them with my character. And it was so much fun because I did not understand D&D or anything. So when did you guys start playing D&D?
Jacob, you get to go first this time.
All right. I started playing back in high school, like most like uber nerds. That was, we were primarily playing like 3.5 and like the spin-off like Pathfinder and stuff. I would say the another I would say like big like upsurgence of me playing D&D. So this is like, I played Magic the Gathering back then, and I did all the nerd games. Around right before COVID, one of my friends had reached out to me. He wanted to start playing D&D more, but he wanted to do it remotely because he was in Hawaii and I was in Illinois, and he just didn't have anybody to play with and play seriously. And I was like, yeah, certainly I'll play. And then COVID happened, and so we were playing D&D a lot. And I got back into it pretty hard after that.
Nice. And Roy, when did you start playing?
So I first played when I was a kid. I don't even remember how long ago it was. So I'm 44. It would have been sometime around 15. I don't remember exactly. And I played on and off for a while, for probably about 10 years, through university and a little bit after. Played some D&D, played some Shadowrun. Played a little bit with a couple of other systems, but nothing serious, nothing more than a couple of sessions. And then I just didn't have anyone to play with, so I had stopped playing for the longest time. And like I started with the old Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, like the second edition, the really old stuff. So I saw like 3 come along. I saw OGL get released, and that effect on role playing and everything like that. And then I got back into it when Jacob started talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I would like to play that again. That would be fun. Yeah, I didn't even remember that, Mark. Fact 0. Yeah, to hit armor class 0. That is old.
No idea on that one.
I want to make a comment too. For those who don't know what OGL is, it's called the Open Gaming License. It is probably one of the best things to happen to any type of game community industry. It is basically is what allows people to create all that homebrew content. Like, if you know who Critical Role is, it's what allowed them to exist. All the other companies that end up making their own campaigns and settings and all this other stuff. It's basically like open source coding as we know it, right? Open source software, but it's for a game system. So it's a very cool thing if you look into it.
Yeah,
what
it's
was the acronym? One more time.
OGL, Open Gaming License.
OGL.
It's all of the it's like all of the core rules. So like how to generate a character, what stats, how to roll, how to perform combat, all that kind of stuff. All the core stats are included in OGL. So like all of the actual like flavor content, so the worlds, the campaigns, the stories, all that kind of stuff is all that's not covered by OGL. That's specific to the particular book that you purchase or license that you purchase. But yeah, OGL is free to use, so you can create your own content, and you have like a really tried and true game system to build off of, instead of like if you're building your own content, trying to come up with a game system that works and doesn't suck. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a huge stepping stone to creating your own content. Like, you don't have to do any of the rules. You just create the world and publish the book, and away you go. So it's awesome.
I'm trying to read what Chris wrote, which, by the way, okay, so many thoughts going on at the same time. Taking a few steps back. So when we were talking about gaming, there are multiple versions of gaming and different ways of gaming that is some of which we've talked about already, some of which we haven't, but there's like video games that you can do on your phone, on the computer, on gaming systems like Xbox or PlayStation, those type of things. Within that, there's subsets of like areas of gaming. Like an RPG is role playing, meaning that it's like a story. There is a first person shooter, which is like something like Halo, where you can play like more violent games, we're going to go with. And then there's also something called an MMORPG, which is
massive multi-online
gaming. And then you also, so I'm going to put those on pause because I do have a story there. And then you also have like tabletop games and card games. And so is Risk considered a tabletop game?
No.
So tabletop games would be all games that you play on a table, like Sorry. Do any type of board games?
Yeah, it's all tabletop games.
Okay. And it's
anything that is a board that you put on a table
is a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is weird because it makes me think about when we talk about like D&D or Dungeons and Dragons, or right now we're doing a campaign in the Expanse, which I will go through in a bit. By that, I mean, I'm just going to ask Roy to talk about it. Those are considered tabletop and not called board games, where board games are technically tabletop games too.
Yeah.
So how would you define a tabletop game, especially since we're talking about D&D?
Well, it would be a tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG.
Yep.
Ooh, more acronyms. That is exciting. And my journey to get to gaming and all of this is I started with video games, playing like Crash Bandicoot and IQ Cube and Mario Brothers and those type of games on the original Nintendo, then PlayStations and Xboxes. I've been an on again, off again gamer, on again, off again gamer until I found World of Warcraft. And I became a hardcore wower, which is a mass multi online. What did we say it was?
So it's
I
a
just know
Massive
MMO.
multiplayer online
Online
role-playing
Yes.
game.
Yeah.
Yes. So I became like addicted. Like I played for 2 years and like was calling into work and stuff like to raid. And a raid, and I'm bringing all of this up for a reason, is a raid is where it's multiple people playing for a specific outcome at the same time. So everybody working as a group to get an outcome, right?
Basically, yeah. It's everyone like on a mission together and trying to succeed.
Yeah. Okay. So these raids would be scheduled at a certain point and you would all have to show up at that same time and I would call into work for it. And that is when I realized I had a really bad addiction to it. And yet it also helped me grow as a human and get out of a bad space in my life.
Mhm.
So with that addiction, though, I quit cold turkey. I was like, I'm never playing video games again or any games. Just not going to happen. And I'm glad I finally came back, but that was in 2010. And I didn't play very many video games until the last 3 years when I had brain surgery in 2020. I started playing video games again because I had nothing else to do. And then I found tabletop games, which is like just D&D was mine, total game changer. It helps me understand and talk to conceptualize tech, but also challenging different sides of myself because it's also like improv
Role play.
and acting and role playing. Exactly.
It's role. Yeah.
So,
That's all those things.
yes. How would you define role playing then?
You take a role and then you play it.
Jake with the most literal definition ever. Like no fun in Jacob's definition, just exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
So are we talking about like a rolling pin? I take a roll and I just play with it?
No, a roll like
ROLL.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I was just taking his literal definition.
ROLE. Roll. The role you're playing right now.
And it's helped me so much with my job overall and playing well with others because they make me level up in life on everything. So I'm curious. All of this is a big explanation to what is OSRG?
Oh my God. All right.
You're welcome. You're welcome for that really big build up.
All right. So OSRG is a community that I started. It actually was kind of a spinoff from Kent C. Dodds's Discord server, where I saw some people doing some like kind of like crowdsourcing of like working on open source projects together. And I was like, hey, I have an idea. So I'm a huge fan. I've written articles in the past and done a lot of research on gamification, crowdsourcing and stuff like that. And I'd heard about mob programming when I first started coding. And so this whole community's like core principles were basically we were going to go using crowdsourcing of essentially a bunch of developers and our time and whatnot, we're going to go and find open source projects to raid, right? Because this is the gamified aspect. Was we were to start creating a game system, right? Think like how D&D has rules. We were going to create a game system that has rules. It has stats and all kinds of other stuff. And we would basically mob program together massive problem domains that were very simple. So a big problem domain that is very simple would be something like refactor all your tests from enzyme to React testing library. That was like the big one that we were doing at the time. Or JavaScript to TypeScript was another one that we could do. And we'd find projects where it was like maybe like a handful of maintainers with a big popular project, or even a medium-sized project that's still very popular or heavily used. And they're just drowning in issues, right? But they have like these like big tech debts that need hurdles that they need to get through. One of our biggest ones is still to this day is a bit of like a magnus opus to this idea that like it can work, it could work, it did work, and that is Hospital Run, where they had thousands of tests, hundreds of files. They had one maintainer assigned to convert it all to enzyme, update all the tests, and make sure that they're all passing. That one maintainer they projected like was going to take like, I don't know, like a year or so, maybe more. They were definitely drowning. And we came in, and at any given point, there was like 5 or 10 people live sharing like a VS Code instance while we're all coding like in the same file or adjacent files. And we would just be kind of on a call like we are now, but it'd be like, 5 to 10 people at a time. A total of 27, I think, contributors, and it took only 30 days to do the entire thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I never knew that's how OSRG came about.
Yeah. I used to talk about it a lot. The origins, like over a year ago, but I stopped recently because it's still a learner community, which is what I wanted it to be. It's still a developer community, which I wanted to be, but it's also evolved a bit into like a gaming community. And it could still be all those things, and eventually maybe what it was before, but no rush here. The community itself is and as Jenn knows, I'm very much like a huge fan of bringing people in and letting them kind of build out their communities. One actually, Theo was one of like he was very interested in the concept as well early on, and had like hung out in our Discord, but eventually he created his own company Discord, and then eventually created his own personal Discord for streaming and stuff. But I'm perfectly okay being a launching pad community for other streamers and other people making really cool stuff. So at some point, if Jenn decides I'm gonna go create my own Discord, let's support that 100%. If Roy's like, I'm gonna go create my own community somewhere, let's support that 100%. It's
I don't even stream on my own channel.
It doesn't have to be streaming. Roy, for all I know, is going to end up creating like the next breakthrough technology. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. We never know, and so like the best thing you can do for people in a community like that is just support each other, and that's really what it's there for.
And that's oh yes, I agree with that, Jasmine. There's something really cool about the community in the fact that it's y'all who got me started and kept me going of my learning and also building out my communities. Yeah. And this is something that I wish I could explain in like tell people more about is there's a lot of tech bros out there in the world. There are a shit ton of tech bros. And by tech bros, I mean, at least in my lingo, is like male
Assholes.
figures that, yeah, and are condescending, and especially to women or diversity. And it's really hard to break into tech, and especially when you deal with them nonstop. And having these two around of Roy and Jacob and being in OSRG gives me hope of seeing that there's supportive dudes out there in the world that want to see others succeed and build them up instead of just doing it for their own benefit. And that's something that I don't think gets talked about enough, and a big reason that I wanted to join the community, because when I was talking about starting my own Discord, they were like, yo, who's going to moderate it? How are you going to moderate it? How are you going to do all of this? How are you going to think that through? Which doesn't always happen. I kind of shoot from the hip, and then they tell me to maybe think this through a few steps. And part of being in that community is, Roy, you started talking about building a keyboard. This is really cool. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of my hobbies. Let me show you the one I'm using right now that I just recently finished. There we go. Not the best camera for it, but yeah, it's basically when you look at doing like custom keyboards, you're basically choosing the different parts. You're choosing like the keyboard case itself, which a lot of these are like they're custom ones. And no, it's not a Newfie. This is a TGR Tomo. So it's a CNC aluminum case. Like you can even see like this one isn't the best on the back. If I have my Mammoth, come on camera, it has like a silver back with like a, yeah, the stuff is like cutting it out. My Mammoth has this beautiful, actually I can share a link to the actual keyboard, but my Mammoth 75 has this like beautiful stainless steel back with this like slightly 3D gold elephant on it. It's absolutely gorgeous on the back. But yeah, you pick your case, you pick your switches, you pick your keycaps, and then you usually like modify the switches. So like I use tactile switches, and you open them up and you lube them. You'll sometimes do film, which is like a gasket between the top and the bottom to change the feel and the sound. And then sometimes even do like a swap the springs to make the switch stiffer or lighter to use. And then you assemble it all together and have a keyboard that really suits like what you like, how in terms of feel, in terms of look, in terms of sound. You can probably hear this. I don't know how well that's coming through, but like it's all custom lube, so it has this nice smooth sound to it. There's no like scratchiness or like spring ping that you can get from other keyboards. So I got what do I have? Five right now, custom keyboards, and kind of switch between them depending on what I want to feel and what I want it to look like and stuff like that.
That's pretty dope. I will say that is something that I think is so cool. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And then I can hear it type. And then even if I get a keyboard that is for myself and no one's around, I'm like, I can hear it type. And for other people, it's so calming. And I love that. And now something that I realize and asking about the keyboard stuff, because it started quite the conversation in the Discord of awkward segue from me, is what is it like working with newbies on any of this tech or gaming stuff?
I like it. For me, it's fine. I don't mind helping people out. I don't mind talking through it and teaching people. I think that's different for everyone. Like there's some people that are better suited to that, and some people that should probably never talk to someone who's new because it's not it's not good it's not their personality, you know. So like don't keep them away from the new people and keep them in the closet in the back and just doing the hard work. And there's people all in between that to different levels. So I think it's, it's finding what works for you. And if it's not your strength, like, don't do it. Don't talk to people who are new. Go help other people. Like, I love Theo, but I can't imagine Theo teaching new people. Not his jam. He would probably lose his mind pretty quickly. But sit down and talk about like more advanced topics, and he would be fine. So
yeah, he doesn't like when I ask questions during Code in Life that are fundamental questions, not advanced questions. It's really funny.
So I find working with people that are new to anything, right? D&D, networking, soft skills, which is still poorly named. We need to find a better name for that as a culture.
Human skills. I feel like soft skills are human skills compared to technical skills.
Human skills is, I like that. But the overall, just like teaching and working with people who are new to something. First off, I have like a fondness for the Feynman technique when it comes to teaching people, which is basically just a concept of like a principle of like if you are unable to explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't know it well enough to explain it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And or teach it is the other way of putting it. But the idea there is you have to have such a fundamental understanding of something that you can like create analogies and metaphors and these like ways of connecting the information to how the person is thinking about something, or how that they personally think about things. Like maybe they have things that they can relate it to, and you can try to create some sort of analogous situation to their knowledge that they already have, which fast tracks them to fully understanding this thing as it is. That is a skill, and it is part of being not just knowledgeable, but charismatic in your knowledge, i.e. wise. And you have to practice wisdom. Wisdom doesn't just grow out of a tree or come out your ass. So you have to practice it. And so like working with people who are new all the time is something that I think fortifies and builds those skills themselves for yourself.
Follow-up question on that one of, I know that I love driving you two insane of
Yep.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to try doing this thing because I think I know what I'm doing and I think I can figure it out. But if not, can I like try to like, how do I say what I need to Google it and give you enough information to be able to answer my question of what I tried to do? How do you suggest people do that? Or as Jason asked, any tips for newbies approaching elders?
Yeah, don't call them elders.
Well, it depends how old they are. Like, it's probably okay to call me an elder because I'm older than pretty much everyone here.
No. Joking aside, though, the first things first is there's lots of content out there that's not just tech related, but there a lot of tech people have created this as well. Things like don't ask to ask, right? That's a big one. There's a lot of content around that. How to create an email for a busy person. If you go look at Syntax FM, the podcast, they actually have like episodes on both of these topics, right? Those two things will actually get you really far. If you go learn how to email or DM somebody who's busy, and you also learn how to ask a question, okay? And you're like learn how to ask a question. You just ask the question. No,
No, not at all.
No. If you come and ask me like, hey, I have a question. Do you have time? I'm gonna be like, nope, I don't have time. If you come to me and you're like, hey, I have a question about this. This is what I did. This is the context behind it. This is the research that I did. If you come to me with that already, right, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let me help you out.
Yep. To expand on that, like what Jacob's talking about is don't come with a super vague, open-ended question. So there's obviously like literally don't say, hey, is it okay if I ask a question? Like that's the bare minimum. But even beyond that, it's like, don't come to us and be like, hey, do you mind if I talk about auth with you? Because that's open-ended. Are you talking about Clerk in specific? Because obviously we both work at Clerk. Are you talking about auth in general? Are you talking about OAuth? Are you talking about password email auth? Are you talking about SAML auth? Like, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Are you talking about auth and how it applies to like user management, organizations, roles? Like that question, hey, do you mind if I talk about auth? It's if you've ever seen, and most of you probably have, the whole picture of the iceberg, how there's that little tip of the iceberg above the water and then the bulk of it below the water. You're asking about that little tip, and the answer could be anything that's below. And like that's a hugely hard question to ask, because one, we don't know what you're asking, and two, we don't know how long we're going to take answering your questions. So we're going to be hesitant to say, yeah, sure, because we don't know if that's a 5-minute conversation or a 5-hour conversation. We don't even know if we actually have the right auth information to give you, because maybe you're asking about something that's outside of our field of expertise, or the product that we offer, or whatever the case is. So having a more specific question like, hey, I have some questions about OAuth and how to set it up, or whatever, like that frames the conversation ahead of time. And then the person that you're asking knows, one, do they have the knowledge to help you? And two, they have a rough idea of what that help could entail and what they're committing to by answering your question. So you're putting that person in a better spot. And that's kind of what Jake was referring to as well, with like, how do you email busy people? It's the same idea. Like when you send emails that are super open-ended and don't have information in them, the person on the other end is like, why do I want to respond to this? I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know how much time and effort I need to answer these questions. When you send an email that has specific questions, then that person can evaluate that email and answer those questions. Or if they're too busy or whatever, they can obviously say no. But you're much more likely to get a response when you have those specific questions. The other thing that I'll add to this, and this comes from my work as like developer success, where I'm talking with developers that are using Clerk's product all the time, every day. We're going to ask questions back, and when we do, answer them. And answer them as specifically as you can. We don't want stories or a lot of information. Just give us that answer. And the reason I say that is because we're usually asking those questions to like narrow down the answer or the information we need to give you, or the suggestion we need to give you. And if you don't answer our questions, it's super frustrating, because we're trying to help you and you're not meeting us in the middle by answering those questions. So if you're approaching someone for help and they ask you something, definitely answer that question. Definitely meet them in the middle.
Mm-hmm. And something that I do really want to call out, and you two have been great at it, and something that I see a lot of from people that are joining the tech field, any field in general, but specifically the tech field, is something that I've heard quite a bit is, oh, go find yourself a mentor. Trying to find a mentor, is really difficult, because if you just ask somebody, hey, will you be my mentor? They're going to probably say no, because they don't know you. And that's a lot of work and effort and follow-up. And it's definitely something that you can have mentors without calling them your mentor, of people that you can ask questions and have a dialogue with, and also asking in return if you can follow up with them as the process is going, instead of saying, hey, can I talk to you once a month for the next year and a half for me to get through this project. If somebody asked me that, I would straight up say no. I would just be like, no, go away, go buzz off. Where if we're saying, Roy called me out on the fact that I keep trying to work on all my websites and I am doing a million things and asking different people to try to get it figured out, that both Jacob and Roy and our Expanse team was like, Jenn, you kind of need to stick with one person and stop trying to ask everybody for help because you're just making it worse for yourself.
Not specifically one person to jump in, but more like one lane. Like, don't go to like a Next expert and ask questions, and then an Astro, and then a Solid, and then a Svelte, and then a Vue, and then a PHP, and then back to Next, and then back to PHP, and then to Vue.
And then for some reason, Kafka.
Kafka. I don't even know how you would fit that in there, but sure, yeah, 100%. You know, like
I do. So, and I bring these up because there was a lot of growing pains for myself, and I feel very fortunate in with these two specifically because I've currently been stuck on one thing that I'm working on of understanding a specific part because Roy was like, I'm not helping you until you get past this point and you have to understand it, which is really helpful because I know that I need to understand it to be able to not just make something work, but understand why it works. And it can be hard as somebody that has worked with others and talked to newbies about other topics. It's hard to not want to fix something for them and just give them the answer. And it can take a lot of time for somebody to be like, oh, you got to go figure that out yourself. But I'm here when you get to that point. And that's why I wanted to ask about how people ask questions because that's where it all starts. And it's having community is such a big part of that because asking one person all the time, which I'm pretty sure Theo's talked about this before of I like to pick on Theo. If you DM him every single day asking him the same thing and asking him for help, he will probably just yell at you.
Or ignore you. I think he would probably
Or ignore you.
But yeah.
And whereas if like I've messaged him when I first started and I was like, hey, what do you use for X? And I think I was asking him about a micro camera or something. And that's going to get a response because it's a very short yes or no answer. Where, hey, Josh, you're a perfect reference for this. Where somebody that there was a win-win of I'm learning TypeScript. Have been using Josh's book, learning TypeScript. And Josh was coming on the stream once a week so we could learn together. That was very synergistic instead of just like, take. Oh, yeah, you got the book.
Yep.
It's another thing that I've been stuck on is I really need to learn about classes, and I will get there. And this is also why Kafka just randomly shows up in the conversation is because I also have to learn the company I work for. And then I just randomly throw things at all of you, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
I want to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll take it up. No, I'll take it now. You already passed it. So the thing that I wanted to say is because this is going back to the mentor stuff. I've been talking about this for years now. One thing is like I tell people you can have role models that you can interact with, you can talk to, you can follow how they do things without asking them to be your mentor. The what Jenn has been describing too about reaching out to certain people and building these relationships and getting help from them. That's just networking. And that is also a key part of that is you're networking for a support network, right? So like you have a network of people who will support you when you need it. I reached out to a friend the other day because I don't know Remix all that well. But I know that Maple Leaf is one of the best remix individuals out there. And I was like, hey, can you make sure that my remix doesn't suck? You know, because I'm making this reproduction. They were super happy to help. And, you know, like I know a dozen people that I could reach out to do that with. And that takes a place of, so the role model and your support network takes place of this like mentor that people usually think about. And when they're thinking of mentorship, when I talk about mentorship, I'm actually usually referring to something more along the lines of somebody who's actually like more sponsoring you, like a sponsorship. What that means is that they are investing time, energy, resources, even potentially money, their own network, right? They're putting their neck out there for you in some cases, maybe giving you referrals or vouching for you directly to higher ups. These types of things, those are what I think of when I say mentorship, and it's more of a sponsorship. Now, that's the type of stuff that I provide for people that I think not only are you know reaching out and asking me for mentorship. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to basically give you the like, here's what you actually need. You need a community, right? There's just some people as you build that relationship with them, that type of mentorship, that kind of sponsorship just happens. It's like a burgeoning part of that network. So like, for instance, with Jenn, I have spent a lot of time helping Jenn. Would I do that for literally anyone out there? No. That's something that happened through the networking and through building that relationship. So when people talk about like networking is really important, it's because it leads to that mentorship that you probably are thinking of, that you're like, this is what I want from my mentorship, but you're DMing them on Twitter. That's not going to get you what you want. Okay. That's you have to go about this. It's kind of a long game. So that's my take on the mentor stuff.
Yep. I want to, I was going to speak on that as well. And it echoes a lot of what Jacob said. Jacob's heard me say this. He doesn't agree, but it's still true. Jacob is definitely a mentor to me. You can see him shaking his head. Doesn't make it less true. And the reason I say that, and I've never once gone to Jacob and said, hey, can you be my mentor? And he's never once said yes or no. And if anyone comes to me, or I think anyone really, and says, hey, can you be my mentor? For the most part, you're going to say no, because the people who do that probably don't know you. The people who are coming and saying, hey, can you be my mentor? Like, you've probably barely interacted with them, or never interacted with them. You know, I've had people do that. I'm like, I don't even know who you, like, how do I even know you? Like, you're DMing me on Discord, and like, I've got to check and see what server they're on to figure out how they found me. And like, oh, you saw me on like the Tailwind server and I haven't posted there in 3 months. Why are you DMing me? What is happening right now? Like, that's not a way to get a mentor. And even if someone says yes, they're not actually going to help you in a significant way because they don't know you. I think the approach is that I've taken, and I think that helps people, is like, be part of the community that shares kind of your beliefs and your goals. So I started hanging out with Jacob's Twitter Spaces, and I liked a lot of the content that was being discussed. And then I started coming up and speaking, and that's how Jacob and Theo and other people got to know me. And the key there is that, like, I wasn't messaging Theo, I wasn't messaging Jacob and asking them for a bunch of help. I was speaking in Twitter Spaces, having conversations with them and other people, and they got to know me that way. And then when I did ask any questions specific to them, they knew who I was, which is huge. They'd interacted with me, and like, it was more than just like, yes, I've seen his name there. They've actually, like, they can, you know, think of my voice, or they remember typed conversations, whatever the case is. But more importantly, they know, like, they have a rough idea of what my abilities and skill are, and they know how I think and how I like carry myself in terms of like interacting with the community. And it makes it much easier to make a choice. Like, is this guy a dick? No, I don't want to help him. Or is this guy always just like asking questions and never providing information, or like, does he ask questions and ignore the answers? Things like that, that would, you know, if I'd done that, Jacob and Theo would have like ignored me. They would have just been, this guy's a dick, don't care about him. And that lets you become like part of that community and kind of develop that mentorship, mentee relationship very organically. And it just ends up kind of happening. And then when you need help, they're there to like refer you to a company. Theo referred me for the job here at Clerk, and he happily did that. And I'm pretty positive he would happily do it again, without even thinking, because you've proven your kind of like value in that community, and that lets someone like Theo or Jacob trust you. They know who you are and what you know. So if they're referring you to a job, they know what you bring to the table. They can speak about what you bring to the table, but more importantly, they have trust that you're not an idiot or an asshole who's going to like get the job and end up embarrassing them. You know, if Jacob referred me to a job and I started working there, and 3 weeks later, the company owner is DMing him and being like, Jacob, who is this guy you sent to me? Like, he doesn't do any work. He insults other people. He made someone cry the other day. You know, like, he doesn't listen to any feedback. Like, why did you send this guy to me? And Jacob's like, oh, I don't know. He asked for a job, so I helped him. Like, Jacob doesn't want to be in that position. You know, and you want to be successful. So you want to create that relationship where you can be successful.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And yes, Alex / Bumpy Lumps, 100%. This is different than like what a company might do, where like they're going to create, there's going to be like an artificial creation of that mentorship.
Really quick, I do want to call out the first one too, because these do go hand in hand together. Of a big part of what people the unexpected asked, like, what do you think I should do to make money while on the side with coding? Well, that's very broad in general. But if you're learning to code and you're like, well, how am I going to join a community and show my value? Or how am I going to, be in the room with people with the jobs that I want to have someday, or learn about all these jobs or see what's out there? You have value just for being you. You don't need to know the tech to get there. And a big part of what I'm passionate about is like being neurodivergent, talking about mental health, talking about shit you don't want to talk about. And that was something I brought to the table, and saw how people found value in that there was still that value exchange. And that was a big reason where I got hired as a DevRel 6 months after I started my DevRel journey, because I brought a lot of other items to the table outside of tech. And that's something I just want to say, like, you can do other things than just tech to be part of a community and bring value. And then to Alex's question of, I think it matters on the company. And I've been lucky enough that at my current job, there is a mentorship program, and the person that was like, my boss was like, yo, you should probably find someone to mentor. And he's like, can I mentor Jen? And my boss was like, sure, if that works, whatever. You guys do what you want to do. And Francesco has been one of the best mentors I've ever had, because he helps me with the technical side of things, but also conference side of things, peopling side of things. What is business? Like, having business relationships, and even if they're not who I would be friends with, per se. Yeah. So there's been a lot of that, and I think there is something that could definitely work out. And there's ways to do that within a company. There's also, I find, organically, how we've been talking about up until this point is one of the best ways to find mentorship even within a company.
Yeah. For most people, what you're going to come across is like the enterprise environment. Okay. You're going to get jobs. They're not going to be these like super savvy, trendy startups or FANG companies or whatever. You might end up in just some enterprise company somewhere. Might
Best
be a
Buy or Allstate or whatever.
Might be a no name. It might not be any name that you recognize. Yep. And this is the thing. If they have mentorship programs, in my experience so far, it's anecdotal, but I've heard it from other people as well. It's pretty shallow. It's not going to provide you a tremendous amount of value. It sounds like Jenn is very lucky in that sense. Overall, it really, 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 really depends on you and you going out there and doing what it takes to actually network and create those relationships. At the end of the day, nobody's going to do it for you. People can literally walk you up to the water. Can't force you to drink it. You have to do the work.
Yep, I can't agree more. And like Jenn said, her mentor is someone who knows her, and that's why that works for her at her company. You know, like, and that's the key. Like, where we're getting here is you build that relationship, you build that community, so that people are like at least colleagues of interest, if not friends, who then they care about you, so they want to mentor you to help you because they actually they care about you as a person versus the average, like Jacob was saying, enterprise company where you get a mentor who may not even know you or you don't normally talk to them. And they're like, they're sitting there like, okay, well, what do I have to mentor this person for an hour a week? Okay, I'll do that and whatever. And then like, if they succeed, cool. And if not, whatever. Like, they don't care about you because they don't know you. And like, they shouldn't care about you because they don't know you yet. You're in a different department. And it's like, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think those kind of programs are broken because they're pairing people up who don't know each other, and there's no investment in the mentor helping the mentee because they didn't know you till they sat down. Now, sometimes they'll work out because you'll get to know each other and like become friends, and it can be successful, but I don't think there's any guarantee of that. And I don't think you should expect there to be any guarantee of that. This is something you want to be invested in. You want to find someone who's invested in you. And cares about your help. Like, you know, that's just how you're both going to be successful, because the person who's mentoring you, what they're going to get out of it is someone that they can rely on in some way, whether it's someone they can bring into their company to work, or their team to work, whether it's someone they can refer to a friend and bring value to their friend's project, whatever the case is. Like, a mentor is looking for value. It's not a one-way mentor gives value to mentee and that's it. It has to be a two-way street. Obviously, the mentor will get less out of it typically because they're helping the other person learn. But if it's just a one-way street, they don't care. It's got to be two ways. And then Jenn called this out, but real quick, Jenn or Jacob, do you know who the unexpected is who commented in chat? Is this someone you guys know?
No.
So, like, I don't want to pick on the unexpected. If you're still in the chat, like, understand I'm not trying to like be mean to you, but this is what we were talking about earlier with questions. You've come in here and said, what do you think I should do to make money on the side with coding? The three of us don't know you. I have no idea what your skill sets are, what your interests are. Like, my only answer to you is something that you're good at. I don't know whether that's like writing essays, whether that's painting art, whether that's delivering food, whether that's something else. Like, you know, this is the exact kind of open-ended question that we were talking about earlier. Like, we can't help you because we don't know. And you've given this super, super vague question, super open-ended question that like we just can't answer.
Well, it's with coding. So Craigslist
still,
ad,
yeah.
Is that front-end coding, back-end coding? Is that
Upwork?
I mean, yeah, like any of those, like.
The main thing I'm being very facetious about, and Roy's being serious about, is again, we have to have context, right? We have to have information, context. You have to provide this stuff when you ask people these types of questions. Context is king. If you don't provide context, you're going to get a vague, ephemeral answer just as much as you asked a vague, ephemeral question.
If anything.
Yeah, and well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. If anything, or I'm just gonna ignore it. The thing is like if you're specifying, hey, I have some front end skills I've been practicing. You know, I just learned React, whatnot. Like, what's something I could do to earn some cash? Oh, you know, like look around and see if like there's some mom and pop shops that need some new like simple websites for their stores. Right there, you can make a few $100 just from one website revamp. If it's back end though, that changes it entirely. A mom and pop shop is probably not going to know what a back end is, let alone need one.
And that brings up a really great way of something I want to call out Jasmine for, and then also get into a big reason I asked brought all of this up is Jasmine mentioned to me, like, she reached out to me on my DMs and was like, yo, you do these mental health and neurodiversity Twitter spaces. Can I set up time with you to chat at some point getting into tech? I was like, fuck yeah. Like, sounds like we have common ground. I don't know much about it. I have bandwidth, so let's do it. And I found out that she really likes gaming and live streaming. And I was like, those are things I'm interested in. And a lot of times without that context though, I wouldn't quite understand what she wanted to go into and also give her ideas of community or things to look into. And also want to say that, so yay, Jasmine. And also want to say that keep showing up and being part of these communities, even if you're not specifically asking for help. Just being a part of the conversation really helps when you do have questions, because I was like, hey, y'all, I'm going to write down some questions I may ask you. And two of the questions was, what is authentication? And the second one was, I started writing, what is the difference between authentication and security? And Roy and Jacob know me pretty well, and I mix up a lot of my terminologies. I can comprehend a lot of complex problems. It doesn't mean I quite understand the doing process of it and building it myself. And so I mix up a lot of those words. I am very dyslexic. It is something that I get very self-conscious about and try to push through. And building these relationships, I know that they aren't going to be like saying something like that meanly. They're doing it so that way I learn. And Roy was like, I'm pretty sure you mean authentication and authorization. I was like, yes, that is what I mean. Thank you. But without being around them all the time, without being a part of this community, without showing up to these Twitter spaces, they wouldn't know where I struggle with my communication. Like, a lot of times I've had to ask the group, hey, I don't know how to Google this. What am I Googling? Because I just space words. Like, it is the most frustrating thing in the world. And they are great.
Let me add on to that too. Like, when you're learning stuff, you almost always initially don't know what to Google because you don't know what you're learning. So like, that's not a Jen thing. That's just a thing. That's something where you have to start Googling and figure out if you're on the right path and then narrow it down, or if you're on the wrong path, try other terms and searches. Because you're like, when you don't know something and you start searching, you need to learn enough to search for what you want. So that's a general thing that's not specific to Jen or anyone. Like, it's something we all struggle with.
I still feel like I do it more. Because y'all, I don't even know how to Google like things outside of tech, and I struggle with Googling. Like, I have to walk up to my partner and be like, hey, I'm trying to look for, those yellow You know that thing that we saw like at the garage sale that's like a little boxy thing and it was yellow? How do I Google this?
But that's exactly what I'm
And
talking about. Like, what is the yellow box thing? Did
I
you
don't
know
know.
what it was called? So that's the
At
thing,
one
right?
point
Like,
I did.
yeah, but like if you don't remember it or you didn't know, like how do you Google that, right? You're like, there's that thing that I like, but I don't even know what the term is. So you've got to figure out the term so then you can Google it. Like that's
Yes.
that's a prime example of what I'm talking about. Is like you can't Google the yellow box thing until you know what the yellow box thing is, or you're going to start Googling like yellow box. What is like things that are a yellow box, or like I'll go to like in a situation like that, I'll go to like Google Images and just like yellow box and like try to figure out if I'm on the right track and then narrow that search down, like big yellow box or little yellow box or metal yellow box or whatever. And like try to get to what I'm looking for and then be like, oh, it's I don't know, whatever, a mailbox. Like that's a dumb example, but okay, now I can go and Google like yellow mailboxes and be Googling the right thing. It's a legitimate thing that we go through.
Yes. And thank you. And Mark, can you if you find that blog, will you paste the link for that? Because that sounds interesting. It also brought up the one more piece that I did want to call out that you guys taught me a lot about was challenge yourself yet embrace the way you learn. I really struggle with docs, yet I've learned through all of this and also with there is another human named Laura Langdon that joined Teach Jenn Tech for a while of learning. I know that I'm super dyslexic, so at least going through and using text to speech to try to read docs is a way that I've gotten over trying to read docs. I still struggle, but that's at least giving myself more resources and learning how to learn. I feel like that can be a very big struggle in all of this.
Yeah, I have pretty bad ADHD. Oh my, I can't even say it properly today. There we go. And like depending on the docs, I can't read them. They're just not written in a way that like I can sit there and read through them in a comprehensive way. And that doesn't mean the docs are bad. It means they're bad for me. A prime example is the React Router docs. I just cannot consume those docs for whatever reason, unless I very specifically land on the piece that I need, the paragraph or two that I need. But trying to go through those docs drives me nuts personally. They're just not, they don't click with me. And again, I'm not saying they're bad. Don't go and be like, oh, Roy said the React Router docs are terrible. They are bad for me. And I'm sure they're great for a lot of people. So you want to understand quickly what kind of docs work for you, or whatever it is, whatever you're learning. Like, look at the docs, and if they don't help you, look for other stuff. I learn a lot with examples. Give me examples of the code, and I'm going to comprehend a lot quicker. Give me just like a function and tell me what to do with the function, and like it's a much bigger struggle for me. So like that I know, and like learn that and lean into that. Don't be like, well, other people read the docs, I need to read the docs more. If that doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for you. Do what works for you. If it means reading the docs with text to speech, do that. If it means don't use the docs, go get examples, blog posts, videos, whatever that is, do that for you. Figure out your solution and embrace that. Jacob,
And
thoughts? No?
that is something that Clerk does, I think, pretty well is doing the docs, because they also have it where they even do share screen. Go to that window. There we go. Is in the docs itself, they under quick start and tutorials, they're learned by example. which is really helpful. And or just like quick starts. There's different ways that it can be done, which is pretty cool. And that does lead me to oh yeah, the JavaScript way out, I agree. Like, it's helpful. I will say I don't think he's here anymore. As from reading from a book, Josh Goldberg's book is actually learning TypeScript is actually pretty funny. Like, it's a great learning book. I was entertained while I read it. Plus, he's fun to talk to about everything. But before we keep going, I'm going to totally like pivot and ask the original questions that we were going to do today's stream for. And then we decided to do, just let's hang out, which I'm also grateful for because sometimes that just needs to be done. What is authentication?
Authentication is just at the base level, is just logging in and having a user account. So it's just the ability to create a user for yourself on a website and then log in and out of that user.
What's the difference? Jacob, I'm going to ask you this one now because Roy answered the first one. What's the difference between authentication and authorization?
So you think about like authentication is like having the key and being able to walk through the door, and then authorization is actually being allowed to be on the other side of the door. So like if I say have access to what would be a good example here? Let me think of that was a metaphor. So let's think of an example that we have. So like, let's say I authenticate and I sign in to your website, right? And you have a route that's like a member's route. You're now authorized to enter that member's route, but you may try to go to the admin route, and you will be like hit with a not authorized, right? It'll just be like, hey, you're not allowed in here. But it's like, hey, but I authenticated. Yeah, but you're not an admin. Right? So you're not authorized as an admin. You're authorized as a member. All right. So that's kind of the fundamental difference.
Could it be like if I'm watching all of like the spy movies and stuff and they have hackers that they skip the authentication to say a specific user and hack their way in to give them authorization to see it all?
Kind of. They're finding an unlocked door would be the best way to put it.
Okay.
Either finding an unlocked door or cloning your key, one or the other.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of make-believe magic in the shows, but we won't talk about that. The way that, so like Jacob talked about a key, my explanation for authorization is very similar, but it's basically authentication lets you open the front door. Authorization is keys for different rooms.
Yeah.
Some people only get one key for like the basic room where you can just like sit on a couch and watch TV, and other people get the key to the room where you can change the channels on the TV and change the programming, or other rooms where you can turn the lights off and turn the heat up and down. So depending on the keys you have different levels of access, and your user management system is going to say, hey, that user's signed in. Cool. Here are the keys that they have, or here's essentially what we call roles or permissions, depending on how you structure your system. And so that user has these different permissions, whereas that user only has this one permission or this one level of access. So similar concepts, just framing it that way in case that makes more sense to people. Either one works as long as it makes sense to you.
Exactly.
So if we go off of what Jasmine said of like, so authentication gets you into the building and authorization gets you to which floor you can get to of the security clearance.
Yep.
Okay. We're talking like the FBI. There we go.
Yeah,
That's how I'm
exactly.
going to
I mean, that's a
conceptualize it
perfect
now.
example. Like anyone in the U.S. could walk in the front door of the FBI to their lobby, right? Of like an average FBI office, you can walk into the lobby, but most people don't have any of the clearance levels or the keys or the access to go through the FBI only door into the the back offices. And even within the FBI, some of the agents might have more access to go to certain files or certain rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah. To expand a little bit on because I like that different floors metaphor. Think of it this way: when you first join a job, all right, first join a company, and say that they have access control. Okay, so that's like when I worked at Cloudflare, they had access control. Your authentication is them essentially hiring you. You're given a key card as this individual. This is your authentication. This is you. It has your information on it. That is the thing that you will be using to authenticate. And then the authorization is essentially like what that key card as you will be allowed to go to different places. And somebody can come up to you and say, "Hey, show me your badge," right? And they can compare it to like your key card and your like who you are, what you look like, and that's them re-authenticating you, right? They're like, "Hey, this is you, okay? You're on the wrong floor, motherfucker." Right? You're not authorized to be here.
To be really clear there, to actually be super pedantic, there's this is you, that's re-authenticating.
Yep.
That's who you are, and the you're on the wrong floor is
His
checking the authorization and seeing that you don't have access.
Yep.
So they're out. Sorry to jump in there, Jacob, but
no, you're good.
The two are both in play there in that little statement.
Exactly. Can people also get into like we're talking in physical examples? This is because we're trying to have analogies here, right? Can people get into those same situations in say like in real world web apps and stuff? Absolutely. Can you be authenticated and be in an unauthorized area? Yes, that can happen. Unless you use Clerk.
Bugs exist. In fairness, even with Clerk, because you're still implementing things and you can implement them incorrectly or whatnot. So like there is some of that. So
yeah.
There's no
what
solution.
Yeah.
Clerk makes it a lot harder to make the mistake.
There you go, Roy. There we go.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do?
It's not magic, unfortunately.
I mean, it's pretty magic.
It's pretty close, but it's not quite there.
Jen's selling better than you are.
It is pretty cool. Like, it's interesting. We were talking about Theo earlier, and Theo has a T3 app chirp thing that he was like, if you'd finish this and do the entire thing, I will answer any question you want.
Yep.
I'm still not done.
Nope.
FYI. I'm still learning. There's been a lot of learning in the process, but it did get me to find out more about Clerk, and then also seeing it being used for our Expanse stuff. By the way, I end up saying that what we're doing is D&D to people because they can conceptualize D&D, but they can't conceptualize the Expanse. So I still call our gaming stuff.
That's super common. Yeah. Like people usually refer to things as D&D or TTRPG, especially when you're using other systems. Cause like saying, "Oh yeah, I play Modern Age." A lot of people don't know that that's the system that's in place for the Expanse. So like, "Oh, I play Modern Age." People are like, "What? What is that?"
Yeah.
Or Illuminated World system. Like, do you know what that is? That's created by the Critical Role team for Candela Obscura campaign. So, or if I say Pathfinder, which is a spinoff of D&D 3.5 rule set game system, right? Like, if I just say D&D or TTRPG, people understand it just fine.
It's very similar to like how, at least in North America, most people say Kleenex instead of like tissue.
Yeah,
That's true.
Because there's also
That
like
is true.
bathroom tissue. There's
it's like a brand name. Yeah, I like that.
you know,
Yeah.
paper towel tissue. Kleenex is a
Mhm.
tissue. Not everyone's using an actual Kleenex,
Yep.
but everyone knows what a Kleenex is.
Or they say
It's
window.
very specific to
Yeah.
the one that you're going to blow your nose in versus like wipe your butt.
Thanks.
It is what it is.
Yes. Yes. And so doing the T3 app, Chirp, and then all the D&D stuff is what helped me understand a bit more about the authentication. And what I'm a bit curious about, because, and this might be a Roy, this might be a you question, is with GoDaddy or like WordPress, those type of platforms, there were users that could be created, but then there was also like file read write rules. So are file read write rules associated with users, therefore associated with authentication?
Their authorization. They are the access that you have as a user. Some users may have authorization access to read and write files, and other users may have authorization to not just read and write files, but also read and write / delete other users' files. For example, an admin could go in and view everyone's files and potentially delete unwanted files, whereas a user would only be authorized to see their own files and modify their own files and not other user files.
Got it. There's a lot to think about here, and I appreciate the breakdown. And y'all, I don't know when, but at some point these two are going to be back because we have lots to learn from them. And I'm working on scrolling back to all of the ideas we had, and I'm curious what y'all would be interested in. We could talk about just like installing it. What does it look like to install it? How orgs and setup, the backend to SDKs and webhooks and custom flows and users.
I think the next stream we should just talk about installing it and talk about what makes Clerk more unique than other solutions in the space. And to kind of preview that really briefly, to install and set up Clerk on your application for just authentication, just to get started, you don't need a backend. You could have a React app that runs solely as a straight single page app, like straight on only in a user's browser, no Node Express, no backend of any sort, no like Next API routes, nothing, just that front end React application. And Clerk will load and work in the front end. We actually have, so actually, let me just deviate for a second to answer Jasmine's question. Clerk is a software as a service product that offers authentication and user management. You can add it to your web application, and we, Clerk the company, basically manage all of that hard stuff for you. You just need to implement it. Like you just need to, make you the sign-in component available, make the sign out button work, the user profile. But we handle all of the work. We have the infrastructure for like saving all that user information, handling all the requests, all of that stuff. Anyway, so just to kind of go back to what I was talking about, you drop in Clerk, it's a JS package in your React application, and it connects with our front-end API. So Clerk actually has 3 APIs, 2 of which you would interact with as a customer. We have a front-end API, a back-end API. We also have a dashboard API, which is what our dashboard interacts with. So you, as a customer, you would never need to worry about that. But our front-end API is what is used for all the sign-ins, sign-ups, changing your user profile, adding your avatar, selecting which organization you're currently active in, all that stuff. And that all happens on the front end. No server needed. You just drop that stuff in, and within minutes, literally just a couple of minutes, you have authentication working on your site. And then later, you may implement some of the backend stuff for more advanced features as you need them. And the key there is because you're just dropping in JavaScript, there's nothing to set up. There's no database to set up. There's no server to set up. You don't have to worry about managing sessions or cookies. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, and you don't have to worry about how fast your services are. If you have your own database to manage sessions, you're handling requests through your server, performance, speed, cost, these are all factors that are removed from the picture that Clerk handles for you. Obviously, it is software as a service. We will, we have a free plan, we have paid plans. Spoiler alert, we're actually switching to a much better plan structure in Q1. Way more free users. It's going to be awesome for our customers. Super excited about that switch in Q1. But yeah, we take a lot of stuff off your plate, and you can then have authentication within minutes. You can even have authorization through our organizations within just a few minutes with no back end. And we can do that. We can set up Clerk with a next app on the next stream. Just take a next app and add to it, talk about doing it, and walk through the different steps.
Yep. Be a good one. The other thing too that was mentioned is user management, right? So what you'll notice is Roy had said, like, you don't even need a database. Like, if you are just setting up a bare minimum React app that's just that you have no back end, no database, you're like, well, where are the users going then? Clerk manages those too. And you have in your dashboard, you have a lot of control over that, as well as there's a very nice graphical interface that allows you to interact with your users. So besides even just like the initial setup, the experience that you get continuing forward is also like really streamlined and really just very nice to deal with. And that's, again, if you don't want to have to like deal with putting your users in a database and all this other stuff. You have it all in one go.
And to extend just a tiny bit on there, not only do we handle all that user information, we provide a unique user ID for each of your users that you can then use in your database. So you don't need a user table anymore. You can get rid of the user table depending on the needs for your application. And then in all of your other tables, your orders tables or your posts or whatever that is, you just use that user ID from Clerk as a relation. So you can just take that user ID and query your database and get your posts. No user table in place. We have options to sync that data if you need it, because realistically, people need it for various reasons. But if you don't need it, you don't even have to have a users table. You just have that unique ID. People ask, what is it? It's not a CCUID or a UID, even though it looks like it. It's actually a KUID, which is a Go thing, but very similar to the others. It's a static 24 character string preceded with a user ID prefix that is unique and consistent.
Nice.
That was a little geeky right at the end there.
Yeah, it was very.
But there's a few people. There are a few people who want to know that, because there's always questions like, what is that? Is it reliable? Is it unique? What's the structure so I can put a type on it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That is the cool thing with the crowd that shows up for the stream. And also, I would say, like, what shows up for the live stream and then who watches the videos is a very broad audience. There's the very technical people like y'all that are like, you know what each other's talking about. I don't know what you're talking, but you two know what you're talking about. And then there's super noobs. And I like that we can vary between all of it. And also, at some point with Alien showing up, I'm like, so could I do Astro with Clerk and then Strappy and Vercel and Railway? And I'm just going to name a bunch of tools and see if it actually works.
Almost, but we don't have Clerk working with Astro's middleware currently.
Yet.
Currently / yet, but it's definitely something that's on our radar.
Yeah. As for like getting Clerk to work with like other integrations, especially SaaS integrations like Strappy or Stripe or whatever, there's a lot of like let's just say tooling and whatnot for enabling that, right? So like Clerk has webhooks, metadata, and just like a fairly low level API as well, that you can interact with. All these things would allow you to build out more and more complex and custom integrations, and more of a system as well.
And if you ever need people to break shit, give me something that says, Jen, this is how it's set up. You're going to try to break it doing something else with it that it wasn't meant to do. And then I'll find that out. And I'm glad that I asked beforehand of, will it work with Astro? Because knowing my luck, I would try doing that someday. But instead, I just don't have an up-to-date website, which is improvement.
Yes, Jen is a professional at breaking stuff, like certified professional.
I'm very good at it because I wanted to try to do stuff that I think it can do, and it doesn't always do it. But when I do learn the tech, it is a bit dangerous because I do things on theory, and doing that when you're working at a production studio with conferences with a few thousand, if not 10,000 people, and doing something on theory, probably not your best idea. But I did it. It worked out 99% of the time.
Mm.
But yes, I love to find bugs and break things. It's fun. And yes, so we will announce at some point what we're doing when we're doing another Clerk stream. And
Is it
we'll,
not December 5th, the next one?
Jacob,
I thought we had
I'm saying that to you. Is that the agreed date?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on right now.
So it might be Roy, it might be Jacob, it might be Roy and Jacob, but it's probably going to be December 5th.
Yep.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
And
if not, we'll announce it with more warning.
Yes. And next week we have someone coming on that is part of our OSRG group and going to teach me a bit about cloud. Kat is someone who is not catnip. Catnip is Jasmine. Kat, who isn't here, is going to be coming on next week and talking about, she is a recent bootcamp graduate who's been really into cloud. And I'm going to AWS reInvent the week after Thanksgiving in the US. So next week, Kat is going to come on to talk to me and give me the lowdown about cloud, which I'm very excited about because I need to know these things. And eventually, and AWS.
Which cloud? Cloud compute, cloud storage, cloud networking, cloud
CDN, cloud email.
We'll get there.
Mm.
We'll get
Cloud
there.
DNS.
It may not be on next week's streams, but we will get there. Because I'm in the works of getting all the cloudish, more cloudy people on the stream, like Google and DigitalOcean and Azure and Microsoft Azure, and asking Jacob for some intros for some Cloudflare. All the clouds. There's a lot of clouds, y'all. There is a lot of clouds.
Yeah.
So
if you see what I just typed into the Twitch chat, Clerk is cloud user management.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. So y'all, it'll be fun. Join us next week. Hit us up when
Jen
you
hates us so much right now.
No, I don't. No, I don't. This is why I adore the two of you, because it's never a dull moment. Ever. And for everyone, we've talked about our community quite a bit, and I just dropped the link again. If you go to this website in the upper left, that's the left, is where you can click Discord. And yes, everybody come join us, come hang out, ask us questions, and hit us up with if you have any ideas on something that you want to have on the show. And Alien, just because I also see you still here, we need to have more Astro stuff on too. One of these days, I'm going to come up with a tech stack that will work of like Astro to, I don't know, and have everybody on at the same time to build an app together. That would be so entertaining. You guys don't look as entertained as I am, but I would. I think it would be so
Jacob's
fun.
link so that people can buy his merch.
I'm never entertained.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot I have stickers. I need to get stickers.
You guys have stickers for all your characters. You can definitely.
Yeah, we need to look at this really quick. Roy, did we talk about doing a?
Yeah, you signed up and were
Fourth-
supposed to tell me when you got
Oh,
got the fourth wall invite, which I'm sure you've gotten a while ago.
yep, that doesn't surprise me.
Yep. Very, very ADHD to just completely forget about that.
Yeah, but hey, we have all of our characters, and it's very exciting.
Yep, they're awesome. Those portraits are amazing.
And I want to get these stickers and then put it on my mug. It would be really cool. It would make.
I mean, if you want a mug with Luna or one of the characters on it, I can add that to the store.
I kind of somehow like this doesn't even like logically make sense and it wouldn't look very good, but to get like an OSRG hoodie with the like Luna on there too and like the D&D ones here, that would just be a really happy.
I mean, we can talk. It's probably pretty quick for me to throw that together and add it.
It's all the
It would be
shit.
kind of weird though, just all the shit all together on one hoodie.
Well,
It
we
would
can
be
also
great.
there's also front and back. It'll make it cost a little bit more, but you could do like OSRG on the front and like something else on the back too.
There's options, y'all. There is options.
Jen's gonna have custom made merch.
There are, there's all the things.
Alex is gonna decorate his laptop with the campaign
figurines.
crew. Well, he'd have to create a figurine one too.
Alex, you need to. Oh, yes. Actually, I will look for a thrift at the thrift shops. I go thrifting a lot, Mark. I will get you. I will see if I can find like, a leather jacket we could like destroy.
Put a hole in.
And then if we get a patch, we could iron it on there.
I can turn these into patches. Oh my god,
that would actually be
terrifying and hilarious at the same time.
Yes. Okay, here are our options for rating. Jason Lingsdorf, which we raid to quite a bit. Learn with Jason, or the other one I got is Primogen. How do you say his name? Primogen. Who should we raid to, y'all?
Jason. Yeah. I would say that's my vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works for me. Thank you. And see all of you next week. And thank you for joining today. Have a wonderful week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.